Imagine your voice being your livelihood and then it gets taken away by cancer. That's the story of legendary radio host Dion Deezy, who went from a diagnosis of thyroid cancer to treatment to now back in the radio booth. This is our next level conversation. Dion Summers, aka Dion Deezy, welcome.
Thank you, Natasha. I'm fanning out right now, just so you know, okay?
Just so you know, I'm fanning out over you. So I have been listening to you on Sirius XM's The Heat for as long as I can remember. I mean, like road trips, car rides, everything. You are a legend to me.
Thank you so much. That means so much coming from you, Natasha Verma. My God, thank you so much.
This is surreal.
Thank you.
How long have you been in the radio business?
I've been so blessed, Natasha. I've been in radio. So my first internship, I'm going to age myself. That's fine. I just turned 50. My first internship was in 1990.
Okay.
I remember I was such a geeky kid.
Mm-hmm.
My favorite radio station changed format. And I didn't know what a format was. All I know was that one day they're playing Milli Vanilli. The next day they're playing like Paul Young. So I called the station and complained. They gave me
How old were you?
I was 15.
Okay.
They gave me the number to the main switchboard.
Yeah.
I called the switchboard. I'm talking to the general manager. I don't know what the general manager is. I'm just like, you know, where's Milli Vanilli?
Right.
So we're talking, and the GM offers me an internship over the phone that day.
Just because of the fact that you called and you had the audacity. And it earned you
gall,
the gall, and you got
I mean, something about being young and fearless. You know what I mean? Like we're like, yo, we can do anything.
Yes.
So I got my internship. I went to Syracuse University. I majored in broadcast journalism.
Mm-hmm.
Fell in love with the campus radio station. Fell in love with the ability to deliver a message.
Yeah.
You know, fell in love with the music, all of it. And I've always wanted to learn how to, I guess, pull the curtain back in radio. Why do they say number one for hip hop and R&B, right? Why do they play the songs they play? Who's this guy doing mornings? Who hired him? Why they hired this guy? So it became a journey to kind of find out the why behind radio.
Yeah.
So I kind of nurtured that in college. After college, I was fortunate enough to get a job in Baltimore, where I'm from. Like, who gets a job in their home city?
That's a home run.
How cool is that?
You never get that. I never hear stories like that.
I mean, I'm literally broadcasting to people who knew me in elementary school.
Yeah.
It was the coolest thing.
How cool was that moment?
You know what? Like that's when my mom finally got it. Because when you tell your mom you want to go on the radio, they're like, there's no money in radio.
Yeah.
There's no, radio. But when she heard me on the radio and after college, she got it. She got it. Like, she understood, like, wow, okay, I could see a future that my son could have in this thing, right?
And you have such a voice for radio or just broadcast. Is that something you were told growing up, too?
No.
Okay.
No. It's an amazing, blessed coincidence. Like, before my voice cracked, it was not happening. I'm glad the voice, like, equaled up to the, career desire because, like, no, I did not have this until, my teenage years. So I'm fortunate that, like, okay, you love radio and you kind of got what people would say is a voice for it. Yeah. Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So I was in Baltimore for a number of years. I did radio for iHeart in Miami for a few years. And now, since 2005, 20th anniversry of being at Sirius XM.
That's amazing. And how long did you start that channel, The Heat, or how did they bring you in on that?
I started The Heat. Yes,
that's amazing.
A year after I was hired, they wanted to kind of get a hip hop, R&B, rhythmic, urban, as they call it, kind of radio station. I was the initial program director and the first voice on The Heat when we launched in 2006.
How does that work? I mean, how do you know what songs to put together? Are you a big part of that curation?
I am. So what we do at Sirius XM is we try to allow human curation, right? There are no algorithms. There are no, we depend heavily on research, obviously. We look at national trends and we apply our own gut to the whole equation, right? And, like I said, I've been there 20 years, right? 20 years ago, Natasha, I'm in the club. You know what I mean? I'm all about the, that culture, that life.
Right, you're tuned in.
Yeah, what I love, the music I love was the music that was popping, right?
Right. So our reporter here at Fox 5, Kendall Green.
Kendall,
shout out to Kendall. Put us in a group chat, and I first of all couldn't believe it. I mean, Dion Deezy, who's been coming out of my radio station for so long.
I'm gonna need you to stop saying that.
I mean, I'm just like like I'm aging myself. And then all of a sudden, I see a picture of you on social media in a hospital bed, thyroid surgery. I could not believe what I was seeing in that picture. And Kendall put us in touch because, a cancer survivorship and that journey. And thyroid cancer, talk to me about how you found out about it.
Sure. So, I always preface this conversation by saying, listen to your body. Listen to your body. When something doesn't feel right, chances are it ain't right. Yeah. I am a rabid hypochondriac. Okay? Anything that's like not well with me,
really,
I'm calling friends. I'm going to urgent care. Look at this, draw this blood. I don't know what's going on, right?
Yeah. So you want answers to anything.
Oh my God, yes. Yeah. So I'll say about maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5, like right around the time of COVID, I began to feel fatigued, right? I would have to sit down after taking a shower in the morning.
Wow.
Like, wow, why am I so tired? I just woke up, I took a shower. Like, why am I tired? So I went to my primary care doctor, nothing turned up. I thought it may have been a heart condition because I'm a hypochondriac.
Yeah.
So I went to a cardiologist. My heart was fine. But she's like, you know what? Just in case, let's run some scans. Okay, fine. Had a PET scan. And I'm going to tell you, so the result of the PET scan, my appointment was March 5th of 2023, which is on a Monday. That weekend prior, we had our Syracuse alumni weekend. It's a big deal. I was very influential in the college radio station, tall black guy, kind of stand out, right? So that weekend's always, it's an ego boost.
Right.
It's I was known as Neon Dion in college.
I love that.
Neon Dion's here. We celebrate each other. It's a whole thing. I'm a member of the Hall of Fame at my college.
Wow, that's amazing.
So it's a whole thing. It's a weekend of love and celebration and honor and blessings and so I'm on such a high that weekend. And then Monday, I'm back home in Harlem for the results of that scan that I wasn't too worried about, but the hypochondriac in me was like, something may be going on. They said they found a tumor in my throat. I remember it. We all know, us cancer survivors, I'm sure. Yeah. You remember the day. And you remember the news, right? I remember I was sitting there and the nurse was going through the scan and she said, "Oh, this needs attention." I remember that exact sentence she told me, Natasha. Wow. She said, "Oh, this needs attention." And she left. And I began crying. I just knew, oh my God. Yeah. It's like the worst that you could hear.
Yeah.
So Dr. Taye, shout out to Dr. Taye at Mount Sinai, saved my life. She comes in and she breaks it to me that you have thyroid cancer. Like the news, first of all, I didn't even know what a thyroid does, what a thyroid is, It controls metabolism. It's a butterfly type of, situation in your throat. I didn't know anything about that.
Yeah.
So she tells me, I have the biopsy, which confirms it. And everything kind of stops.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you don't hear anything. You don't see anything. Like, everything just kind of goes in slow motion. Like, New York being the busiest place in the world.
Yeah.
Like, I heard nothing. I just went numb. And I'm thinking, God, who do I tell?
Yeah.
How do I tell them? I'm the type, Natasha, that, you know, I don't like to kind of kick up dust.
Yeah.
I don't want you to feel sorry for me. I don't want to, you know, I'm not that person. Like, don't pity me. Like, so the one thing that happens when you tell people you have cancer is, you know, you get the, oh my God. Like,
yeah, it's the ultimate sympathy, right?
I didn't want that.
Yeah.
Right, right. And I'll tell you this. What compounded my situation was, so that was 2023.
Yeah.
In 2021, in April of 2021, about exactly 2 years prior, I lost my sister to my sister to breast cancer,
Oh, so
and
sorry.
my stepdad to prostate cancer within the same month.
Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry.
Thank you. In April of 2021.
Yeah.
So, as I'm trying to digest the news of my own diagnosis, the worst thing that I'm thinking about is, my God, how am I going to tell my mother?
Yeah.
She just lost her daughter and her husband 2 years ago to cancer. Now her last remaining child has cancer.
Was she your first call?
No, I did not know how to tell her.
Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, yeah.
To say the least.
You know, I called friends first. I called friends first. I needed to kind of, you know, practice.
Kind of prep yourself, right?
Right. Because I knew that was hard.
Yeah.
And I knew I didn't want to tell her over the phone. My mom still lives in Baltimore.
Yeah.
So I remember that weekend. So I didn't tell her all week because I wanted to tell her in person.
Yeah.
So I went to Baltimore that weekend and told her face to face. You know, and we, you know, the amazing thing about a mom.
Mm-hmm.
You know, she cried for a second, and then she's like, "Okay, all right, what do we have to do?
Right.
Let's go."
She
Let's
gets
go.
into planning mode, mother mode.
Yes, yes, and I love her for that, and still love her for that. Like,
Yeah.
she's been my rock, like, my entire life. So many God blessings in this, Natasha. One of many God blessings in this was the fact that I was diagnosed and I had my thyroidectomy within 9 days.
But because you were so in tune with your body and you listen to yourself, the fact that you were able to get there, did that make a big impact on your prognosis?
Yes, it did. It did. The fact that it was caught when it was caught,
Yeah.
you know, was the difference between life and death. You know,
What's so twisted here, in a lot of ways, is that it affected your voice, your livelihood. That had to be rock bottom for you.
it really was. I mean, it took me to a dark place that I didn't know if I'd find my way out of. Like, so at the time, so like I said, 9 days, which never happens, right? Normally, you know, you're scheduled for months out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'll see you in May. There was a gap in the schedule. You know, May 5th was my diagnosis.
Mm-hmm.
May 13th was my surgery.
Okay.
So a week and change later, I'm going under the knife.
Wow.
And so they told me, as they were prepping me for it, we found some trace of the disease on your vocal nerves. So we're going to have to do some scraping. So your voice will change. At the time, I'm like, do what you got to do.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, hey, whatever, take it all. I don't care. I just want the cancer gone.
Yeah.
That was the first objective. That was the main goal. The voice, But when it happened, and I woke, the surgery itself was about 13 hours.
Wow, that long.
Yeah.
My goodness.
I mean,
wow.
obviously, I don't remember a thing.
Yeah. Right.
But
right.
but I was told it was an
Yeah.
all-day thing.
Wow.
I mean, it was a very involved surgery. And I awoke. What they didn't tell me was the trach. So I woke up with a trach in my throat. Oh, this is nice. And I had no voice. It was a hoarse whisper.
Oof.
Like, the voice that, again, the voice that I wasn't born with,
Right.
but the voice that I was blessed with, I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
was gone. It was gone. It was a hoarse whisper. I could barely make out. I remember being in the hospital having to write down my thoughts because I couldn't speak at all. And so my doctor said it would take about a year, maybe. We can't, the way the body kind of regenerates itself is totally, the body's a perfect vessel, but it's random.
Yeah.
Some people regain their voice, some never do. So doctors are very careful. You know this, having gone through the experience. Doctors don't want to live in absolutes, right? They don't want to say, oh, you'll definitely. Like, no. There's a possibility that whatever. So for about 9 months, I had this kind of gravelly, low, sort of like growl.
And how often could you talk? Did they want you to rest your voice?
They encouraged me to talk as much as I could, because that in itself strengthens the cords.
Right.
The more they bang up against each other, the better. So they encouraged me to talk.
Okay.
But I was embarrassed.
Yeah.
The voice that I had kind of come to use and be my calling card was gone.
Wow.
Gone. And so I dove really deeply into my spirituality. I lived kind of a, semi-charmed life, right? Like, cool radio, met some cool people, did some cool things. But I never had a story. My story was, radio kid. My story was the internship, right? My story was, hey, I met Whitney at a party. Like, that was my story, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like God needed me to tell a deeper story.
Yeah.
God needed me to tell a more real story. And you know what? God wanted to tell me that in telling your story, it was never about your voice. It was never about your voice. You know what I mean?
Wow.
I'm going to give you the power to tell your story and understand that it was never about the cool voice that you thought you had.
Wow.
So in that gave me the courage to get better. It really did.
It's almost like when you're stripped away of everything that you thought was your identity is when you really find out who you are.
Oh my God. That's it. That's it.
Right?
Yes. I thought that this was all that I had.
Yeah.
And what am I going to do now? God took the one thing that made me unique, that made me special. No, God gave you something. God gave you the ability to have a testimony, to encourage others. And I've always been an optimistic person by design, but having gone through this has kind of taught me that, you know how you don't want to kind of, you don't want to talk about yourself with so much. You know what I mean? Nobody wants to hear that, right? I've learned to become bolder. It's weird, Natasha. I've learned to become a bolder person. I've learned to become a more expressive person. And the aha moment in that is that you're helping people.
Yeah.
You're helping people. People need to hear that. I've been a part of, so many chat groups of people with thyroid cancer and, cancer survivors in general. It's like the club that you don't want to be a part of, right?
But you're so happy you've got the membership,
yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And it's encouragement. It's funny because people say, this sucks, by the way. People say that oh, be lucky you have thyroid cancer. It's the best cancer to have. What?
Cancer is cancer.
Right.
Yeah.
I've heard that so many times. Oh,
Yeah.
it's a slow-moving cancer. Oh, if you're going to have one, it's good to have thyroid cancer. No, it's not.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. I've got to have scans twice a year.
Absolutely.
I'm a mess when I get the scans because it's like the results come in on your my chart before your doctor calls you. So you play doctor when you're like, oh my God, what does this mean? Oh my God, what does this mean?
Yeah, you're looking at the levels.
Right.
There's a name for it. It's called scanxiety.
Is it?
Yeah, scanxiety.
That's funny.
Because I felt it too every time, and I'm like, And it's worrying. Could it come back? Could it worsen? You live your life like that. So because you have this possibility of it coming back, how do you live your daily life?
Scanxiety. I did not
Scanxiety.
need to hear that, but
Yeah,
thank you.
scanxiety.
I
Makes
love
sense,
it.
right? They put everyone
It
kind
does.
of they put a name to it.
It does. You know what? You just gotta live. You just gotta live because everybody has their thing. That's another takeaway from this. It's like, you know what? It might be cancer, it might be diabetes. Everybody has their thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it could be depression. Everyone has their thing. You know, but I really don't want to look like what I've been through.
Yeah.
And it sounds so cliche, but I've learned to live that. I mean, every day is not a great day. You know what I mean? Because like it comes back into your mind again, and you're like, yeah, I've got a scan to do. Yeah, I've got an appointment to go to. But I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm here.
You're here.
And a year after my surgery, I was able to get back on the radio. Like, it came back.
What was that moment like? The first day back.
God, it was so, well, I was nervous because in my mind, I'm like, okay, I'm a little raspy.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can't pronounce my H's.
We talked about that.
Right.
The heat.
The
Right.
heat. Right. Right. I'm on a channel called The Heat. My weekend show is called The Hotness.
Oh, gosh.
And here I am like the only letter that's like
Yeah.
didn't come back was the H, right? So I'm nervous.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you know, are people going to tell? Can people tell? You know, are people going to welcome me back? Because I didn't want to tell people that I had cancer.
Mm-hmm.
Like that post that you talked about,
Yeah.
that was maybe 3 or 4 months after my surgery. I didn't want to tell anybody. Because again, I didn't want pity. But again, God spoke to me and said, this is your story. Like, you're going to inspire one person.
That's amazing.
One person's going to be like, yo, he did it. I can do this too.
Yeah, and you came back. And what has your journey been in rehabbing your voice? Because I noticed you clear your throat. Is that part of it too?
It is. It is.
Yeah.
So I had to learn how to swallow again. I had to learn how to eat.
Wow.
You know, like the things that we all take for granted.
Mm-hmm.
I'm in a hospital learning how to do these things again. And it really humbles you.
Yeah.
It really, really humbles you. I remember being in the hospital and having swallow tests. Because now, you know, after the surgery, the muscles weren't there.
Mm-hmm.
So the muscles in you and the brain functions that say, go down this tube, didn't exist for me. There was one tube.
Yeah.
So I ran the risk of choking every time I took a drink. And so my first few months after the surgery, I had like thickening agent mixed into my drinks.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing is more disgusting than thick
It
water.
sounds gross.
It is the most disgusting thing ever to drink warm, thick water.
Oh, God.
The first time I was able to pass my swallow test
Yeah.
and drink cold water again, it was the best drink I've had in my life.
I can imagine.
Oh my God, it was the best drink I've ever had. So that's how I coined the term, the good swallow. I had months of bad swallows, right?
Yeah.
A bad swallow, I would choke, I would vomit because everything would come back up.
Yeah.
I mean, it was my body would convulse. It was a whole thing about swallowing water, something so easy and so normal for everybody. That when I was able to get that good swallow, everything felt great.
Yeah.
You know, the fact that I'd worked and had to retrain my body to do something as basic as swallowing, which everyone takes for granted.
Mm-hmm.
I learned that, you know what, you can't take everything for granted.
No.
Like overcoming cancer and swallowing water again is an accomplishment. So the good swallow came to represent an accomplishment of something that was so difficult in you, but seems so easy in others.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that was my story.
Mm-hmm.
Other people have their stories. So the good swallow is when you achieve that breakthrough in your own story.
On that note, the good swallow, what is next for you?
I definitely, you know, this inspires me, Natasha, because this is the kind of forum that, you know, I want to use to encourage other people. Like I said, I've gotten way more in tune with my spirituality. You know, I talk about my spirituality on my show.
Yeah.
You know, I don't hide from it. I used to hide from it. Nobody wants to hear that. No, somebody needs to hear that. You know what I mean? So I've become a lot more emboldened and empowered on my radio show. I feel so blessed to have a radio show.
Yeah.
You know, I'm getting together a podcast this summer called The Good Swallow, where, you know, same as you, like I talk to people who've overcome adversity. You know, people that you wouldn't know their story if they didn't tell you, right? I could have just swept this under the rug, but I think it's way too important,
Yeah.
you know, to really say, number one, when you feel something in your body that doesn't feel right, you know, get an answer to it.
Right.
Get several answers to it. Like I said, my primary tip was like, you're fine. You know, just the chance that my cardiologist that didn't even,
Right.
you know, hey,
Wanted
just
to
be on
do
the safe side and get
scan.
scans.
Yeah.
So, number one, listen to your body. You know, number two, like, don't give up on yourself. You know what I mean? Like, don't give up on yourself. Like, we just come out of COVID. You know, it was a very kind of dark time for everybody. You know, myself included. We were working from home, and you know, just being in New York. I mean,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. It
having
was hard.
you know, having covered the whole thing, that it was a dark time for everybody.
Yeah.
And I was in that same dark cloud. But something about this diagnosis, you know, and coming through it, kind of inspired me. It really, really inspired me, like to this day. You know, there after effects of the thyroidectomy. You know, my breathing's a little impacted because my you know, air passage is a little narrow. But that's a battle scar.
Yeah, and I noticed you've got a bit of a scar here, right? It's almost like it's a badge of honor in a lot of ways.
It is, and I see so many other thyroid cancer survivors with that scar as well. You know, it just marks what we've been through.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like, it just gives a more a stronger story to your struggle and how you've kind of persevered, how you've made it through.
Yeah.
Like, it's a part of me, so I don't hide from it. I just use it to encourage others now.
I'm so inspired by you. I thank God that you're okay.
Thank you.
Truly. I mean, I listen to you. I know you don't like me saying this, but for years and years I listened to you, and to see you in person, to meet you, to know that you're okay, and the fact that you're on this journey sharing what you went through is going to inspire so many people. I'm so glad that you're okay. You sound fantastic.
Thank you.
I love to hear that you're back on radio and that, you know, you want to launch a podcast soon.
Yep.
Yeah.
I you know, every weekend on the heat.
That's right. The
Right.
heat.
Yes, my countdown show, it comes on 4 times a weekend. You know, I love to do. I'm blessed to be doing what I still, you know, love to do. You know what I mean? Like radio is my passion, music's my passion. You know, I'm so grateful that for over 30 years I've been able to, you know, affect the culture in my own little way. You know, and I don't take it for granted. Like, I love doing it, and now, you know, I'm using my story to influence that passion.
Good swallow.
The Good Swallow. Yes.
Dion Deezy, thank you so much.
Oh, this is so cool. Thank you so much.